Hi, Andy Miller here with the Lance Armstrong Foundation, and I'm here with Margot Michaels, who's the Executive Director for the Education Network to Advance Cancer Clinical Trials. Margot's come in today to talk to us a little bit about the realities around clinical trials. We know that adult enrollment in cancer clinical trials is very low, and there are many common myths out there around clinical trials that can help impede people making the decision whether or not to participate. So, Margot, tell us a little bit about those myths and what is the reality around enrolling in a clinical trial?
Well, I think the number one myth that people often believe is that they would receive a sugar pill or a placebo instead of appropriate treatment. And that may be true in other diseases. It's never true in cancer. It would be unethical to put a cancer patient on a placebo when there is appropriate treatment available. And so it's something that people need to know, that they will never be not treated if they were to be on a cancer clinical trial. And related to that is, of course, if one is on a clinical trial, if one is not doing well, that's just tough, that the patient has to stay on it because they signed a consent form. That's also a misconception. A patient can get off a clinical trial at any time for any reason. That's an important principle of research that people don't often understand. Another important myth is that patients don't get quality care in a clinical trial, and we know from two sources, from patients themselves who are on clinical trials and also experts in the field, who say that cancer care can be enhanced when one is on a clinical trial simply because of the extra attention that's provided. Every cough the person has, every rash the person has is well followed, much more than it would be if the person was on standard treatment. And also some people feel like, well, I'll be on a guinea pig if I'm on a clinical trial. Well, an important issue here is that I don't know many guinea pigs who sign an informed consent form and who are informed about the risks and benefits of being on a clinical trial. And it's required by law that patient receive information throughout the study. That's also very important. The guinea pig isn't provided that right. We as patients are provided that autonomy and that ability to say yes or no at any time, and that includes at any time in the trial without prejudice to their future medical treatment. Another important myth is that my doctor will recommend a clinical trial if one is available for me, if one is suitable for me. We know that unfortunately that is not the case. Many docs don't know about clinical trials or may not refer to clinical trials, so it's very important that patients call the Lance Armstrong phone number, find out about their options for care, which include clinical trials, because their doc may not know. And it's important that patients be given all their options at every point of treatment, whether it's their very first treatment or whether it's a treatment that they're starting after many treatments have failed them. All those places are places that clinical trials may be an option for them, so it's important that they take or their loved one takes that initiative to find out what options for care are.
You raise a good point about enrolling in a clinical trial once other treatment options may have failed. Is that the only appropriate use of clinical trials?
That's a really important point. That's a big misnomer. Most people believe, well, if I'll be on a clinical trial once all my treatments fail, and of course that is the big misconception. There are clinical trials for patients that are in their first treatment or their very last treatment. It's a misnomer to believe that patients shouldn't consider a clinical trial really even at the first treatment for cancer. And actually, if they're not provided that option early on, it may preclude them from the ability to participate in clinical trials because there is that narrow window. We believe that the best time that someone learns about a clinical trial is at diagnosis or prior, so that they can make that informed decision with their family, with their doctor, about the appropriate care they'd like to pursue.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.